Hi people, Marino Ravenberg here again as always and as usual. In this video, as the header suggests, I'm going to be discussing briefly the tribal mentality that narrow-minded people have and how wrong it is. So yeah, I'm just going to dive right in. Pretty much everyone more or less has experienced this, or not even experienced, but has been privy or witness to it and has noticed it. People in generally tend to, not everybody, but certain people, the likes of which I mentioned, have a tendency to play favorites. Their favorite, they practice favoritism, if you will. So they automatically favor their own kind, whether it be on an ethnic level, so racially or religiously, or in one way, shape, or form, or based on nationality. It just goes on. And yeah, I'm just briefly going to highlight how wrong it is, just because this is something that people know, and yet people, it doesn't dawn on them that this is a trait of, generally speaking, either non-developed or severely underdeveloped people. Yeah, for example, Native Americans, Chinese people, you name it. They have a tendency to favor each other when it comes to ethnicity. As in, if you, for example, take a cab in NYC in New York City, and your cab driver happens to be Native American, the chances of him favoring another customer that he helps after or before you, because that person is also a Native American, is much higher. And it's just, I mean, plain and simple, it's bullshit, okay? But yeah, generally speaking, the guy will favor his so-called Native American brother over you because you're not Native American. You're something else. You're either Indian or mixed race or Caucasian or something. But you can see where how wrong that attitude is, honestly. Moralistically speaking, it's just plain wrong. End of story. And generally speaking, people that are narrow-minded do stuff like this, okay? Of course, these people also have a tendency to discriminate heavily, whether it be on race, based on race, religion, it just goes on. They can either be xenophobic or racist or similar, you name it. And yeah, of course it's nonsense. I mean, pretty sure that a lot of people have seen this. For example, an Indian guy will favor, I've experienced this in my life as well. An Indian guy will favor an Indian over you who are either of a different ethnicity or a different religion or a different nationality. Australians will favor each other as in, oh, you're also an Aussie, eh? And yeah, you know, Brits, people from Great Britain, whether it be England, one of the Irelands, or Scotland, or Wales, you name it, they'll also favor each other as in, oh, okay, oh, you're a Welsh chap, aren't you? And yeah, before you know it, it's, again, you can see that for that person, simply based on the fact that they have that in common, it opens more doors up for them in the position they find themselves in terms of engaging with the other person compared to you. And you can see how unfair that can be. But yeah, unfortunately that happens. And like I said, it happens primarily in circles where people are either underdeveloped or not developed. People that have a tendency to behave in a tribal way, which is obvious nonsense. Again, that's why you'll come across stuff like this, generally speaking, in either the lowest classes in town, the lowest class neighborhoods. I'm not referring to money, obviously, I just mean in an overall way, or in basically in either the ghetto or in rural areas, okay, rural areas that are barely inhabited, you name it. And like I said, it's a trait of the underdeveloped, generally speaking. No person that is moderately well developed will actually do something like that, because any person that has like half a brain knows that we're all human beings at the end of the day. We're all living creatures, okay? If I cut you, you'll bleed all the same, regardless of your race, your religion, or any thought that might be swirling around in your brain, provided you have one, so to speak. So it does not matter, not even in the slightest, okay? Like I said, if I grab a knife and I stab you, it doesn't matter whether you're white, black, Muslim, Arab, it does not matter what you are or whether you have a favoritism towards this or towards that. It doesn't matter what dish you like. It doesn't matter what religion you practice, none of that matters. You will bleed all the same, literally and figuratively speaking, just like anyone else I would stab. And yeah, in big cities, generally speaking, that's why you won't come across stuff like this easily. You won't come across favoritism based on one of the aforementioned factors in, for example, middle to upper class neighborhoods and whatnot. I'm not saying that it's not present at all, but it's rarely present. You have to really exclusively go looking. You have to really go look for it. Okay, you have to actively seek it out in order to find it, but you won't come across it easily. That's because, you know, the big city, major metropolitan cities of the world, London, you name it, Berlin, Amsterdam, Sydney, Washington DC, New York, you name it, all of these locations, you know, they're inhabited by millions upon millions of people. So people, generally speaking, are well developed enough in general to the point where they can see past stuff like that. They know that stuff like that doesn't matter. Like I've said, I might have said before, I can't remember, but like I might have said before in my, you know, in one of my past videos or a live stream, you name it. These are all material attributes. These do not matter in the slightest. This is no different than, none of these attributes are any different than the clothes you wear. By that logic, you can also say, hey, I don't like people that wear black clothing or white clothing or people that wear multicolored clothing, etc. You're not going to get anywhere. I mean, imagine if the world was if the majority of the world was so narrow-minded, to the extremest of levels, okay, to the point where everybody played favorites, the world would be hopelessly restricted. Imagine the Japanese keeping all their brands to themselves, as in, hey, Suzuki, Honda, everything, we're going to keep everything to ourselves, screw the rest of the world. Anime, keep it to ourselves, screw the rest of the world. Same thing. Imagine if Americans said the same thing. Imagine if everybody on earth essentially did the same based on nationality or ethnicity and whatnot. You know, as in, hey, don't use any products made by white people, don't use any products made by Indians, etc., etc. You would not get anywhere in life. You wouldn't get anywhere. It's hopeless, okay? Don't watch any movies that were made by black people or white people. No. There's a difference, okay? You can personally, for whatever reason, briefly, simply favor one over the other, but do not mistake this for favoritism. Favoritism is very similar to racism or discrimination based on any other factor other than race. That's my point. And of course, again, like I said, me being where I am in my location, you can imagine, you know, that favoritism is a heavy set thing here. But again, guess what? The bulk of the population, like I've said a million times, hypothetically speaking, consists of parasites that are supposed to be people. They're not human beings. On paper, they are people, but in reality, they're parasites. And yeah, they favor each other heavily here, primarily based on ethnicity. Two Indian guys see each other, they're like, yo, what's up, my brother, in India? And it just goes on and on and on. The guy is much more likely to choose to help, for example, his so-called Indian brother over you, provided that you're not an Indian, in whatever situation. It could be a general situation or an exceptional situation. Bottom line is, he's much more inclined to help out his so-called fellow Indian than you. But of course, that's pathetic, you know. That's not the way things are supposed to be. And like I said, generally speaking, it's a trait of the underdeveloped, honestly. You can expect that from like the redneck types and whatnot. And by redneck, I'm not referring to Caucasians specifically. I'm referring to any person, regardless of ethnicity, etc., like I've said, that behaves like a redneck, you know, as in yeehaw. So yeah, it's just, if you're someone that wasn't aware of this, well, now you are. And if you're someone that by any chance does something like this, then I hope that this video is a wake-up call. In any case, see you later. Bye.